it's fundamental to understand that we're not going there to fix anybody or fix anything. We are going in there, especially if you don't know the processes or the system involved. You are a student at that point. So that's where humility comes into play. And unfortunately, as you already know, there's a lot of a lot of bias in a consultant's mind where, I know things, I'm here, I know how to help you out, you just don't know, right? I'm not about to crack open your brain and see the new world, but that's not the case. It's actually, we need to crack open our own brains to understand what these folks are doing and how we can help them out, not to be better, to be exceptional.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the New England Lean Podcast. My name is Paul Critchley, president of New England Lean Consulting. I'll be your host. I hope everybody had a great Valentine's Day, if you so choose to celebrate the Hallmark holiday. Now, I know it's not a real holiday, but to be honest with you, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing to have one day out of the year where it's, I'll say, sort of dedicated to spreading love. So I hope you guys had some fun and enjoyed the day. This week, it's my honor to have Panos Efsta to the show. Panos and I are good friends, and I'll apologize a little bit in advance because he and I know each other so well. When we hop on to record this episode, we kind of jumped right into it. Normally, if you're a regular listener, you know that I will throw it over to the guest to have them introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about them because obviously not everybody knows everybody. I do course correct about 3 or 4 minutes in, but I think it goes to show what Panos's passion is for lean, and that's why I chose to name this episode what I did, because he's just, to talk to Panos and to know him, it really comes through, what his passion for all of this is, and that's why I really put Panos up there with those folks who I think embody what lean is really all about. Now, that's just my opinion, but to listen, like I said, to listen to him talk, it really comes through that he's legitimately, eternally curious, and God, I can't come up with a better word. He's just passionate about helping folks get to excellence, as he kind of puts it. Now, a little background on Panos. I mean, the guy, he's the real deal. He tells the story. He came to this country, the United States, with almost nothing, and he's built himself into what he is today through sheer grit, determination, intent, whatever adjective you want to put to it. And I have honestly nothing but respect for him. Now, a little, like I said, I'll get to the background here. He's got a certificate in operations and value chain management from the MIT Sloan School of Management. He's a certified Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt from Villanova. He's got a few accreditations and certificates from the TWI Institute, which if you saw my LinkedIn post from this past week, that is, I'll say, the official, air quotes, spinoff from the TWI enterprise. I forget exactly what it's called, but from the War Department from World War II, when we had to train a bunch of people up in this country very quickly because of the war effort in manufacturing. So he's got a bunch of certifications from them. He's got a systems thinking and public health certificate from Johns Hopkins. He's been an ops manager. He was a director of operational excellence in industry. He went out on his own, so he was an external consultant for a while. So he's really done a ton of stuff. He's landed now at Bryan Health in Lincoln, Nebraska, and I'm so excited and optimistic that Panos, is now within the healthcare industry, helping proliferate lean, because that's an industry that desperately needs that kind of help. And I'm so glad that somebody with Panos's background and abilities are now helping, because again, I think in that industry it needs a lot of love, and for all the right reasons. So I'm very excited that Panos is now in that industry and helping out there. But it was a great episode. Like I said, he and I know each other pretty well. So I think that comes through when you hear us talk, because it's just easy. And Panos is an easy guy to talk to, especially for any lean practitioner. So I strongly, highly recommend and encourage you to reach out to him. If you hear this episode and he says something that you find interesting, which I think you will, I don't know how you couldn't, but he's always welcoming to have conversation with people and help in any way he can. So I'll link to his LinkedIn profile in the show notes, and like I said, please reach out to him because he's a great guy to have on your side and have in your friend circle, in your professional circle, as somebody to lean on. So as always, I hope you enjoy the episode and I hope you get something out of it. Have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. All right, welcome to the New England Lean Podcast. I am your host, Paul Critchley, and today I am ecstatic to welcome my good friend, Panos Efsta. Panos.
Howdy, sir. How you doing?
Good, man. How are you? How you been?
Good. Long time no see. I know we had connected before virtually, but I haven't seen you for quite a while.
Yeah, I know. It's with like everything else, COVID messed everything up. So
That's right.
It was so much to manage just with the kids in school, and now they're doing virtual, and to help them with getting that. And then my wife works full time, so they moved her to home. She's actually still working from home, so she's coming up on a year now. So just a lot, it was chaos.
Absolutely. Typically, that's they typically say what, adapt or die, right? It's most likely it's like adapt or create chaos.
Right, so, right. And that's
right.
So we talk a lot on the podcast, which if anybody listens, they've heard this before. So I'll keep it brief, but we're, as lean practitioners, we're constantly talking about managing change and how do we do it and all this kind of fun stuff. And sometimes that change comes when we don't want it to. At least when we're doing lean initiatives, it's sort of up to us. We can say, well, maybe we're not quite ready for that just yet or whatever. COVID did not give us that option, right? You're changing whether you like to or not. And I talk a little bit about it because I think it's a good parallel to real life. You never know what's going to happen. So
exactly. It really goes down to the fact that, we have to feel comfortable feeling uncomfortable. And when we don't, unfortunately, we're going to see circumstances like that being, challenging for everyone. And I'm not saying that they're easy by all means, but really, if you have trained yourself to be uncomfortable, comfortable around uncomfortable situations, which is pretty much, you're coming across your threshold of knowledge, or pretty much to force yourself to say, hey, I don't know, I need help. And if you're not comfortable doing that, circumstances like this is going to be even more detrimental for your personal life or even your career, because you're not used to reaching out, to exploring, to be intentionally curious, and that takes a toll on people.
Yeah, for sure. Right. It is difficult. And it's interesting. We had Dagmar Vallejos and Tom Lenski on a couple of weeks ago. And we talked a lot about just that, which was, how do you, as lean practitioners, sometimes we even get stuck where we'll come up with, and you were an external consultant. That's what I do now. So we kind of develop our packages and our trainings and modules and all this kind of fun stuff. And sometimes, and I'm guilty of it, so I'll pick on myself. Sometimes we just say, all right, well, that's done. And I'll put that on the shelf. And that way, if anybody needs it, I'll take it off the shelf and just deliver it. And we can sometimes get caught up in that. And it's interesting because sometimes you have to look in the mirror and you think, duh, we have to change along with everything else. So when COVID hit, we had to move to virtual and all kinds of different things. So.
Exactly. And, I would say no two people are always going to be exactly alike, and no two circumstances will be exactly alike, right? We need to be very, very sensitive to the fact that, organizations, people start from different starting conditions. So we have to be very sensitive to that because, just like you say, the cookie cutter mix, unfortunately, is not going to be always applicable. And it goes back to really understanding your condition and the circumstances surrounding it. Otherwise, it's almost like, applying the wrong, I would say, intervention to a patient, just because he has some symptoms, and you say, okay, well, it's COVID symptoms, and therefore I'm going to apply this intervention because it's, the cookie cutter mix. So we cannot do that. And I see this in healthcare a lot, where healthcare has a lot of things to teach and help every other industry learn in regards to understanding the circumstances clearly. Because as you know, I mean, my background started in manufacturing, so it was easy to say, we want to be like Toyota, so this is gonna, the flow of this line that typically, Toyota or other best practice organizations might be applying. So let's just copy paste. And there's a lot of that happening. And you can see that even more recently with automation and robotics. And, a great company like Tesla, for example, struggle with the automation at the beginning because it's not a cookie cutter application. One thing that we're not sensitive about is, not just only, we say culture, but I don't think a lot of people understand what that means. Um, we have to be sensitive and empathetic, not only to our customers, but also to our employees. You cannot have one or the other, right? Um, so all these circumstances, come from how you are as an individual at your own home. And of course, you apply that at your work. And I wrote that in my book, saying that, hey, this is a lifestyle. You cannot just switch it on and off whenever you leave the office or whenever you're coming to work. So it really, it's everything is linked, no doubt about it.
And that's important point. So thank you for bringing that up, and we'll link to I forgot to. We kind of jumped right in. I didn't even go through the usual like, hey, introduce yourself, because you and I obviously know each other pretty well. So let me back up a little. For those who don't know you, can you just maybe give us the dime tour and how you got to where you got to?
Oh boy, we're gonna need a few days for that. So my name is Panos Efsta. Currently, I'm a part of a great team at Bryan Health in Lincoln, Nebraska, a healthcare organization that I would say it's really making an impact in the community. And I love being part of this team because we have a great executive team. We got great senior leaders. We got great individuals across the board. Look, nobody's perfect, of course, but it's the willingness is there, and I love it. I never perceive work as work. I try to enjoy it as much as I can and see it more as my opportunity to elevate myself. So my background started, gosh, I would say to date about 20 years ago. I came to US and from Greece. So as a student, I was studying actually physics for my undergraduate. So I took the leap of faith. I was about 17 years old, and I just took the plane over. I had my luggage with me, just a couple of bags, I would say, and I was like, let's see what happens, right? But I was very intentional about it. I was not just kind of arbitrary in my curiosity there. So since then, I spent my first years out of college in manufacturing, where I learned, I would say, great ways to think. I was blessed enough to have great leaders around me. One of my bosses, Tom Roberts at Modine, Leslie Suster at Client Tools, great individuals. And I was able to learn how to think differently. And when I say differently, um, really not going by the book, right? I was trying to build my intentional curiosity, even if I didn't know at that point, and it felt very uncomfortable, right? It goes back to what we were talking about, hitting that wall. So life brought things in a way where I started my MBA at the Jack Welch Management Institute not too long ago, about 4 years ago. And it really inspired me. I got to talk to Jack Welch several times. We had him in sessions like this, like Zoom sessions like that. So we get to learn a lot of it and challenge really our behavior and our thinking. Now, some people might think Jack Welch was a rough guy, but everybody's, of course, have their own opinion. What I will tell you, though, is one thing that really stuck with me is transparency. And And really, if you cannot be transparent with yourself, you will never be transparent with those around you. And when I say transparency, being, of course, in a respectful manner, right? And that's how what builds trust. And unfortunately, we see that today in our world, right? And especially in our country here, trust is something that doesn't exist. People don't feel comfortable say, I trust. So through that, anyway, I got my opportunity to start consulting externally after my years in manufacturing because I was really interested in getting into healthcare, knowing that healthcare has kind of fallen behind the eight ball when it comes to innovation and redesigning of the system as a whole, right? The healthcare system. Manufacturing and other industries have invested a lot of capital on their innovations, through mergers and acquisitions, through new technology introductions. So healthcare had fallen behind, and even if there were a lot of innovative products out there, right? Telehealth and analytics. It was very segmented. Very specific organizations had really taken the leap of faith to introduce those, because as you can imagine, right, and as you probably know, one of the experts you are is that change is very hard, and my goodness, you introduce it in an environment where, like healthcare, where you have highly educated individuals,
Mhm.
right? They have really molded their thinking around their education, which is unfortunately not as innovative, and it's been really challenging. So I wanted to get into that. My sister is a physician in Advocate Medical in Chicago, so I was always I would say playing cat's ball with her on healthcare. So I started my own consulting firm with my wife, and we had the opportunity to get into healthcare and meet great people and make and build relationships and collaborate with different individuals from different, I would say, levels in healthcare, from CEOs all the way to even. I spent a great time working with the janitors, cleaning the hospital, which is back if you go back if I go back about 2 3 years when I started working with them, it's in the cleanliness of their room, right, and the
Mhm.
organization of their room. It might not have seemed so important, and guess where we are today, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
The cleaning services within the healthcare facilities are one of the most important functions right now, if not the most important function, because you can work hard, to provide care to a patient, but if their room is not sanitized and clean, oh my gosh, it's like spreading death around nowadays.
Right.
So,
Right.
I had the opportunity again to build relationships, and I wanted to get into healthcare in a full-time basis because I am I want to consider myself visionary and very methodical strategist. So I wanted to be part of something great, and I want to look back later on, whenever I decide to retire, probably never, but I want to leave something back for our family and our kids in the future, and really make an impact to our country. Healthcare is going to be detrimental financially for our kids and us, of course, as we growing older. And this is a great opportunity to leave something behind that is going to make an impact to everyone.
Mm.
So I invested a lot of my education around healthcare. Currently, actually, I'm wrapping up my finance master's, and then hopefully soon, you know, God willing, of course, I'm studying my master's in law in healthcare policy and management.
Wow.
So, yeah, I'm trying to build my education because I'm a big believer on learning, intentional learning, right? If you have heard me before, I keep on saying about intentional curiosity. So intentional learning is part of it. It's a component of that system. And what great way to learn, of course, in a very key topics, and of course, apply it every day. So that's the best way to, I would say, turn something and learning to a skill. So I have the blessing to work with a great team here at Bryan Health and in Lincoln, Nebraska. And I mean, I could not be prouder and I would say happier to be here with my family. So
Nice. Well, congrats, man. You're doing, I mean, like I said, you and I have known each other for a long time. And even I didn't know all of that stuff. So thank you for sharing and thank you for the work you do because, we do a little bit in healthcare here with my business, but not a ton. But anytime we've done it, the consultants, if I'm not there, if it's one of our folks, they'll always say, this is probably one of the most rewarding
Mhm.
experiences I've ever had. We have one of our guys, Bob. Um, he had his own consultancy for a long, long time, and he did a lot in like the gas industry in the southeast part of the country. And we did a project with a hospital in Rhode Island for in the maternity ward, really, and it was all about the patient experience for new moms, and there was some pretty sobering statistics as far as how many were here in this country by themselves, didn't speak English,
Okay.
didn't know what resources they had available. Scary stuff. I mean, just try to put yourself in those positions. And so he was the lead. I happened to be there, but to listen to some of the nurses tell these stories of the patients that they were helping with, it really puts things into perspective, right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
For
absolutely. I mean, there's great. I know people maybe have their bias, against the U.S. Healthcare system, but we cannot just judge every element of the system just because the whole does not, it does not make us feel comfortable.
right.
There's great professionals. Everybody's cares to do the right thing, and they go to work every day to do the right thing. And I know we used to say that in manufacturing back in the day, where nobody comes here to be to cause harm or cause a defect,
Mhm.
right? Intentionally. So in healthcare, there's a lot of emotions into play. So people, we citizens and patients, of course, alike, we need to be sensitive to the fact that there's a lot of caregivers. I would say all caregivers putting their life at risk to provide care. So it's not just their education that they have invested on. They're investing their emotions and their personal, I would say, sanity, because it's not easy to deal with us as
Mhm.
patients. Um, so it's really exciting to see and be part of that world, because at the end of the day, one process change, one system redesign can actually save lives.
Right.
Even if you're not considering yourself a physician or a clinician, working and collaborating with all this diversified thinking on the table, you can really save lives and make an impact.
So I want to go back to thank you, Panos. I want to go back to something you mentioned. It sparked a thought, and I apologies to anybody listening or watching because I'm going to butcher this a little bit. There's a story or an adage about, I believe it's building the Sistine Chapel, and there's three right. There's three guys. They're helping to build it. And I think the priest walks in. He asks the first man, "What are you doing?" And the guy says, "Well, I'm laying bricks." And he asks the second guy, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, I'm building this wall." And he asks the third guy, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, I'm building the house of God." So it's all about the perspective, because you could say the bricklayers are just building the building, just like you alluded to a little while ago, that the janitorial staff is, sweeping and mopping the floor. But that's not really all true. Well, it's true, but it's not the whole story. They play a vital role in the whole value stream of the healthcare system. So I'm curious, can you maybe hum a few bars, because you said you've been working with those, from maybe a few years ago. How did that go when you first came in? You're like, "Hey, I know lean and we're going to do some cool stuff." Did they push back? Did they look at you funny? Like, how did that go over?
So one thing that I've learned, and I would say by looking myself in the mirror several times, is not approach it like, I know lean or I know something. More of I'm here to learn, what is it that you do and how that connects to the whole system, right? So it has been, I almost remember this vividly. They're perceiving their jobs as, I'm just cleaning rooms, I'm just mopping the floor, I'm just cleaning the table, and I'm just, putting things together. And this is where, unfortunately, the virus starts growing inside our brain, when we're not really, acknowledging the impact that we're making, regardless how little we might think our job or title be. So, again, it was for them. It was as little as I'm just cleaning. right?
Mm.
I'm not a clinician. I maybe have not even gone to school. So, but it was for me to really not help them fix that process. It's really help them reinvent their thinking and see themselves, in a much different way. So there's some images out there on the internet where you see a little cat, looking in the mirror, right, and you see the image of a lion.
Yeah, right.
So it was pretty much like that. How do we go from thinking yourself small or unimportant, right, and turning your thinking in such a way where you're intentionally building your curiosity and say, what if, how do I fit in this system? And unfortunately, I would say over the years, we approach things more of a process level, right? Let's fix the process and do X, Y, and Z. And we forget really, man, what impact are we making to the whole system? Um, and I think that's where, another thing, I know that that's where a lot of the times we're missing the ball here in the consulting world or in lean practices or Six Sigma, whatever you want to call it, that we fail to understand really how do we couple ourselves into the whole system. And that actually is detrimental because not only we don't value our work as much, but also we people that we're trying to sell it to don't see it as important.
Mhm.
So lean as itself is as a thinking, and I'm kind of excluding all the tools and methodologies and the greatness behind it, is, I would say, in us innovating. And the only way we can innovate is really by changing our perspective and our thinking. That's why I started promoting a lot of think big, right, and not big, but big. Build intentional curiosity. So if you get to that mode that you're building yourself to be intentionally curious, you don't see obstacles as failure. You don't see obstacles as a way to turn back, but really ask yourself, how can I go over or through or around these obstacles? And that applies to our personal lives as well. So for that particular example that I mentioned to you, for them it was more of a the complaint between nursing and the janitorial services as to which, by the way, they're called environmental services, not janitorial. But I just want to make
Okay.
sure that everybody understands that. Um, it was more of a well, you don't clean good enough, or you don't put the furniture back into the rightful place, so now nursing has to spend the time to do that. And people don't understand that what you sell on everything that you do is not a product, is not a service, but is the experience. I don't care if you're a physician, I don't care if you're an astronaut, I don't care if you're a consultant, you sell an experience. Right, a little kid wants to be an astronaut. I remember when I was little, I was, I was very into the pilots and the astronauts. It was the experience. Little did I know what they were doing in detail, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So the same thing goes with what we do at our own environments. We sell an experience, and once people buy on that experience, they will be willing to do anything it takes to enjoy, to experience that. So just like when you go to Disneyland, right? You go for the experience. You don't go for the particular ride. You don't go for the hot dogs or the burgers and the lemonade.
Yeah,
You go
right.
for the experience, right? And that's what I believe makes people enjoy and find joy in what they do, and not just to clean better a patient room or arrange it the proper way. Is really how do they connect their work with the patient himself, right? The whole patient experience, and that's where they see the value,
Mm.
right? When I was little, I used to help my mom a lot in cleaning around the house. And I'm like, why? I don't even understand. Why do I have to do that? Why do I have to do all these chores, right? But it's really understanding the value that you're bringing in, building that mentality, the value that you're bringing in of being part of something that looks clean and good. And then you can sit back and say, oh, well, I live in a clean house in a very sanitized environment, and comparing to, what I might see around me. So it's the experience.
Hmm. Hmm. So talk to me a little bit about how did you start out when you were learning about lean and continuous improvement thinking? Did you draw that parallel? with the experience, or did that evolve kind of over time? And if the latter, like how did you develop that?
You see, when I first came here in the United States as a 17-year-old kid by myself, and literally I hopped on a plane and I say goodbye to my parents, right? And I travel overseas, for 15 hours. What I will tell you is what drove me to come here is not the what we call what we used to call land of opportunity.
Hmm.
It's the experience. And one thing that I say to all my friends and colleagues is that the perspective that people have outside of this country is the experience. The life that you live, not the opportunities you have. It's the experience to live in a much different life. So, base building on that, I was really, I would say, I was very a curious kid when I was little. Especially early on, I was very into math and physics. Early on in my life, I would say almost since elementary school. So I really built it on that, and coming here allowed me to even build more of that curiosity, and really understanding, that aha moment that was turning into a wow moments, right? Whenever, especially in physics, I remember in our lab work, we used to have a lot of wow moments because we were getting to experience. The equations and the new discoveries that they were not new. It was new to us as students, right? They had been discovered many many years ago, and just seeing those experiments take shape, and actually feel it and see it. It was just building on that experience, and it just, I believe, after that, it was just automatically my brain just kept on building and dragging into that. And of course, they tell you invest in something that you're good at, that you enjoy. I say be careful with that. As long as you want to invest in becoming great at it, and then you can monetize it. Yes, those don't just
Well,
put it in your
yeah,
line. Yeah,
yeah,
just
right.
yeah. Invest in something that you're good at, that you can be great at, and then of course then you can monetize it. And of course, as you monetize it, then you can help so many other people.
Nice, nice. Because we talk a lot, especially on this podcast, but we talk a lot about the respect for people column, pillar of on the House of Lean, and invariably that turns to the culture piece. But it's interesting because no other guest, I don't think, I'm trying to remember back, but nobody has talked about it from a passion standpoint, and that's really interesting to think about because as a external consultant, which you were too, and that's part of what I try to do, and we all try to do, even as lean practitioners, if we're working in a company, we try to get people excited about this. And it's a little bit of a challenge because there's this people don't like change belief, and I always like to say that people don't like being changed, and because I think that's might be semantics, but I think that's more true. But either way, guys like you and me show up, or somebody says, "Hey, I'm so and so from the lean program office, and I'm here to help you make your job work better." And sometimes we'll get people look at us like, "Who the heck is this guy? Have you ever have you ever worked in healthcare before? Have you ever been a nurse or a doctor or, a technician or anything?" I'm like, "Well, no, I haven't." But it's all about, right? It's all about getting the environmental services people to understand that, yeah, you're pushing in chairs and you're cleaning tabletops and doorknobs and floors, but in the patient experience, if you don't do that real well, it creates a lot of other work for other people. And oh, by the way, it can actually harm people in a hospital environment if you don't, if they get an infection or whatever. So it's actually vitally important, the work that you do. We have some public school system and a university that are clients of ours, and we have these similar kinds of discussions. Nurses, doctors, teachers, professors, those are some of the most passionate people that I've gotten the honor of being able to work with because, for the most part, like both of our neighbors, we have two neighbors, are nurses, they don't drive Porsches and Ferraris back and forth. They're not in it for the money. They're in it because they're trying to help people. So
Mm.
anything that we can do to help them be able to do that, better, I think is, to your point, it's what we're kind of here for, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, Ferraris and Porsches and all that, they're okay. You know, I mean, if that's what you like, there's no judgment, and there should never be judgment for that. What I will tell you is that, who do you want to be? The, I'm pretty sure Paul, they asked you to when you were younger in school, and they say, who do you want to be when you grow up, or what you want to be? Actually, what you want to be when you grow up, right? Nobody asked us who you really want to be when you
Mm.
grow up, and really, the answer, there's no magic answer here. Is the answer is a better version of ourselves, because we need to keep building on ourselves. As I said earlier on, is that not two people will be exactly alike, just like our fingerprints. So individuals on any industry, I believe there are a lot of them that they're putting in a lot of good effort, because Tesla did not invent itself. NASA did not invent itself, and a lot of other great companies out there. There were people that came up with, the thinking and the effort and the passion to create the COVID vaccine, to create, the robotics and the robotic surgery rooms that we have today available in our disposal. So the same thing happens in any aspect of our life. So passion is a driving force. We have to be careful with it, though, because going in and saying, just like you said, I'm here to help you do your job better. uh, we almost saying, all right, because how we communicate the message, right, is as important to not what we only communicate, but how we communicate it. And actually, you brought that up, and we had that discussion with several of the nursing teams I'm working with this week. How can we structure the message in such a way where we realize how we communicate to people. So, with that said, it's fundamental to understand that we're not going there to fix anybody or fix anything. We are going in there, especially if you don't know the processes or the system involved. You are a student at that point. So that's where humility comes into play. And unfortunately, as you already know, there's a lot of a lot of bias in a consultant's mind, where I know things. I'm here. I know how to help you out. You just don't know, right? I'm not about to crack open your brain and see the new world, but that's not the case. It's actually we need to crack open our own brains to understand what these folks are doing and how we can help them out. Not to be better, to be exceptional,
Mm.
because we all have, I would say, capabilities that we have not yet discovered. It's almost, we are rough, we're stone with the rough edges, right? We just try to be the sculptor and start, sculpting away, and at the end, right, one day we can have a nice monument there, or you know a sculpture there that say, oh my gosh, this came out from this ugly stone to begin with. It has to start like that. You cannot call the ugly stone an ugly stone. You have to call the ugly stone a beautiful monument,
Mm.
and the potential it has. It's a lot of selling that has to happen. And one credit that I will give to people, like yourself and a lot of other consultants, and regardless if you're an external consultant or you're actually working in an organization as an internal consultant, you're a great salesperson. You have to be a great salesperson, for the most part, because you're selling that experience.
Right.
It's like the difference between Apple and Dell. Dell sells you a computer that you can customize. Apple sells you the experience. It sells you the environment that you can be part of, right? And download your iTunes and have this, that, and the other. So it's your choice to be a Dell or an Apple. So
Right. That see, man, this is exactly why I wanted you to come on, because I knew you were gonna make my head explode, right? And describe this in a way that even I, haven't. I've been doing lead for, golly, it's got to be almost 20 years now, and as an external consultant for what, 7 or 8, I've never have connected these dots. So thank you.
oh, you're very welcome, Apple. And look, it's not. It's the mindset of continuously learning. You're doing that every day, and every podcast you have, you're adding more, not only value to the listeners, but you're adding value to yourself, whether you know it or not, because you get to see a different perspective. And now I would say more than ever before, it's so important for us to realize that concept that we need to really be intentional learners, not just internal learners, but intentional. Find what the better version, find what the better version of yourself should be, right, and go after it. It's not about, as you mentioned, it's not about the Porsches and Ferraris or anything. What excites you the most, right? And of course, as I said before, keep on building on that, and if becoming great at it, you can monetize it, and by monetizing you can help others, of course. If you just follow just strictly your passion, does not necessarily mean that you can make an impact. You can might be a temporary impact to yourself, right? But that's about it.
Well, that's the most powerful piece of lean. I mean, and that's really when I have the experiences of when we're able to help a client and specifically the people that work there. We've had, there's a story I've told before about one of our clients where there's a machinist that came up to me and, basically I'll paraphrase, but he's like, listen, I wasn't too sure this was all going to work because, and I don't go in, by the way, I don't go in and say, hey, I'm Paul, I'm going to fix you. Right. Cause that's a great way to get a 2x4 upside the head. But, so you're right. Part of it is sales. Like I don't go to people in the front line and say, hey, we're going to help the company make more money because they may or may not care. They're like, all right, well, I can kind of connect the dots and see that that's going to be, maybe I'll get a piece of that in a bonus or a pay raise or job security or what have you. But a lot of times it's like, why do I care? I punch the clock. I work here. And same things, we don't always go to a CEO or an owner and say, hey, we're going to improve your employee experiences. They're like, well, that's great, but I really called you because our on-time delivery is in the tank and we need help, So we do have to tailor the message. At the same time, as you know, every client's a little bit different. So I don't crack the lean textbook open and say, all right, let's see. You said you have this problem, this problem, this problem. And the flow chart says you need a value stream map. So we're going to do that for 3 days and then everything will be fine. Because and I both know, and everybody listening knows that's not going to happen. It's really gets to the, like you said, the experiences, the passion of the people. What do they want to be able to do? I'm a firm believer, just like you said, people get up and go to work to do the best work that they can. I'm never going to be a doctor or a nurse or a lawyer or an accountant. That's not how I'm wired. That doesn't has nothing for me. I am a mechanical engineer. Just not only by degree and by, experience, it's what I am. That's how I work. It's how I'm wired. So anything that we all can do as lean practitioners to help people do what they want to do more, I think it improves their lives. So back to the machinist story, he comes up and he says, I don't know if all this is going to work, but now you've been with us for a while. I've seen what you guys have done. And I wanted you to know, I actually have the time now where I can help coach my son's football team. And I had 2 older boys. They played football too. I couldn't do that with them because I was here 60 hours a week at work. And I never asked if I could go do that because I knew the answer was going to be no, because we're always behind, you name it, we're doing it wrong. But now we're actually outputting more product, better profit margins, less overtime. Like I actually, the overtime's there if I want it, but I have the choice now. So that guy's life is better and his family's lives are better. He's going to have those memories with his youngest son and his son's going to have those memories with his dad forever. 5 years from now, we're not going to remember the widget that we stayed late on a Friday to make, right?
Indeed.
That's the stuff that doesn't matter.
That's right.
Right.
It's very interesting that you said that. And I want to circle back to when you said, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse. In a way, though, those are just titles, right? And let's think beyond that. I was wearing a jacket the other day that had a heart that I had made for my company. And a good friend of mine, Jessica, asked me, one of our unit managers, I would say one of our most genius, really, unit managers in the hospital. He's like, what is this jacket? And joking said, I'm a cardiologist, and we started laughing at each other. But I was like, realistically speaking, right? It's all about making the heart pump. Whether I'm not a physician to really operate on the heart, my goal is to make sure that the heart pumps. When I say that, think about this for a second. When you're passionate about something and you're excited, right? What happens? Your heart keeps on pumping, right? And you get even more excited, right? And your adrenaline goes off the roof. And think about it. Whenever it's a sport, it's a game, something. It's the same thing that you feel the joy, right? You don't go play soccer or baseball or football with your friends and say, "Oh my gosh, I have to go and play and meet up with my friends 6 or 7 tonight. We have to play golf, whatever. We have to golf there," and then you see it as a burden. No, so it's the same thing with what we call work. Um, which I know a lot of us have come to appreciate even more, that four-letter word, because the more we see it as a work, that's exactly what is going to remain in our heads. But it really is about finding joy in work, and really turning the value, finding the value to uh, what you do and what you offer other people. Very nicely, you said it. We will never remember the widget, but we will remember the experience. You will never remember, if you had to wait in line for 10 hours to go up in the roller coaster in Disneyland. You will remember, though, that roller coaster ride that it was 20 seconds,
Right.
right? And you say, "Oh my gosh, can we go back in line?" All right. I never had that experience when I was younger. And, when I had the opportunity to go to some roller coaster rides, I'm like, "Can I go back in?" And then I will wait another 4 hours. I don't care. So it's the experience that matters the most, is not the work that goes in it. The experience is what we measure at the end, our happiness against. We measure, our effectiveness against the work, whether we like it or not. Nobody's going to be perfect. Nobody's going to take the shortest path forward. And no two people alike will do it the exact same way. So I really, I'm glad you said that. It's not like you pick up the book and you say, "I'm doing it. If this happens, let's do this." And a lot of people try to write these things down, and unfortunately, it doesn't work out. So it's really, and what I've found, I would say the most exciting part in my life has been to fail, and fail big. And I'm okay with that. Either on my personal life or my career, I've done mistakes left and right. But when I look back, I am glad at least I got to learn from them. It would have been a miserable time for me if I had ignored those failures and I had put myself down and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm worth nothing, and I'm not going to move forward." And that's where our impact in the Lean community comes. That helping people understand it's okay to fail, and failure is almost like opening a book that you didn't know existed, and builds on top of our decision making bias, and goes back to this week. I've had several discussions about that with teams, about we need to get, how do we become more comfortable saying, "I don't know, but I'm willing to find out,"
Mm.
instead of just saying, "I don't know." I mean, "Hey, what do you think we should do about this?" "I don't know." Right? So that's a different, I would say that's a different really mindset. And it's really almost a state of mind where a lot of times, and my good friend Jessica mentioned to me the other day, is like, because I was trying to, and one of the things I write in my book, Seeing to Understand, is, you know when you hear people say, "I think, I believe, I have a hunch," they don't know, right? So that's a sign right there, an opportunity to really play catch ball with them, to really help them expand the threshold of knowledge. So uh, starting from saying, "Yes, I think we should do this," versus say, "You know what, I don't know," and then turning into, "I don't know, but guess what, I'm willing to find out." So this state, this phase transition, it's almost like water, right? Going on the three phases of water, solid, gas, and liquid. It's the same exact thing. So it's good to have the combination of all three, but you have to be very careful what you verbalize, right? Verbalizing what I'm thinking is irrelevant. Does it add value and experience to anybody else? No. Saying that I don't know simply just to say it, Actually, I'm not even helping myself at that point. Like
Right, right.
I look myself, I make myself look, look horrible. But saying really, you know what? Guess what? I don't know, but together we're gonna find out, or I'm willing to find out. Can you help me? Man, does that open doors left and right. I've had the opportunity to sit down with a lot of our clinicians, doctors, surgeons, and nurses and therapists. Say, hey, I don't know how you do your job, or specifically a portion of it. Can I shadow you? I would love for you to show me. I know I'm not a clinician, but I would love to know. And jokingly, I say sometimes, I know now so much that I can be dangerous, right?
Yeah.
And I was mentioning to my friend Marisa in the women's and children's section the other day that, hey, when my wife gives birth to our kids in the future, and you're in the delivery room, and I see you don't following procedure, now I know I'm going to call you out on it,
Yeah.
jokingly. It's really getting comfortable saying I don't know, and I'm willing to find out. Otherwise, we're going to live on the fallacy that that facade that we're building in that makes us feel very comfortable. And when you're comfortable, guess what?
Yep.
The train has stopped at that
Right.
point.
Right. And I feel like that happens sometimes, and sometimes we don't even know it. So I don't know. I don't know if we always do it consciously, where we say, I'm comfortable where I'm at. I know what I need to know because, lean, there's a lot of talk about lean transformation failure rates and all that kind of stuff. Um, and what the struggles are. And I feel like, well, for one, I don't subscribe to that, but I won't get into that because I've railed against that enough. But one of the things I feel like, if you get to a certain level, whether it's leadership, management, doctor or education level or whatever, I do wonder if it gets harder and harder for folks to say, I don't know, or I don't know, but I'm willing to figure it out. Can you help me? I don't know if there's a correlation. I got to maybe do some more research and look and see if anybody's ever done that kind of a study where it's, maybe, the higher up in an organization, you're looked to be the leader, right? As a neurosurgeon, if I have to go get brain surgery and I ask him, hey, what if I do this or that thing? Well, I don't know. It's like, geez, I'm not going to feel too comfortable. But, I think that's a different situation. I think in the
Yeah.
context of what we're talking about, I would love to be able to see more of that where folks will be comfortable, like you said, regardless of your rank and file, to say, you know what? I don't know. Because we always say, right, as lean practitioners, people doing the work know the best. And that's 100% true all the time, because if I'm a plant manager, which I have been, I don't know what everybody out on the shop floor does every day, all day. I don't know how to run every job. I don't know how to run every machine. I
Mhm.
have to be of that mindset, of that humility level, right, to ask those questions and say, I don't know. Panos, you do this every single day. Can you help me understand what you do? And that's why I love what you just said. Shadow them. Go to the Gemba, right? You go and see, and okay, now I have a better understanding.
Exactly right. And as a leader, regardless of what your title is, because often as individuals we get hung up on the titles.
Hmm.
Even if you're a CEO or whatever executive you might be, your job is not to know all the answers. And I want to revert back to Jack Welch. Jack Welch was very clear: don't be the smartest guy in the room. And man, I can tell you, he is beating that mentality. Has been beating that mentality to us and many other students at the institute for many years. And it goes back to the fact that build a winning team, right? Build the people around, build the environment around you where you can build the right answers, right? Through trial and error. So when you hire a contractor, the contractor doesn't know how to build the house, that every single detail. What does he do? Right? He has an electrician. He has the builder, the concrete guys, and you name it.
Hmm.
Not everybody knows perfectly everything, and that's perfectly fine. Often we find individuals that they try to do that, and they're not only cutting themselves, they're spreading themselves thin, but they're robbing themselves from the opportunity to even learn more, because it goes back to the mindset I mentioned to you is, I'm not going to say I don't know, because I do know,
Mm-hmm.
right? I grew up, I started my career, on the floor, and I became a plant manager, right? So I would say, a quote unquote, a not so good version of Paul would be, I'm a plant manager. I know every single, I've done everything here. So don't tell me how to, you have problems with the mess. Just go there and fix them. And that's where and that's where, unfortunately, we are robbing ourselves from creating an experience. We want to build an environment where we don't know, but we're building the team around us to make, to figure out the answers. And as a leader, regardless, especially as an executive level, it's not, your effectiveness is not necessarily just the results on your P&L. It's by looking around and say, do I have a winning team? Is that team can break through the ceiling, right? And really take this hospital, this manufacturing facility, this business to a whole different the level and be competitive. It's not just about looking at the numbers, because I've been mentioning this, and I've been coaching this and teaching this for many years now, is numbers can be achieved in many different ways. And we all know that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, how you get there is a whole different other story. And can you maintain that pace and growth? And how do you do that? By building a winning team and making sure that you put the right people in the right roles. Um, and I know that's another great fundamental from Jack, and we just have to get very comfortable doing that. Not hiring leaders that they know all the answers. He's hiring leaders that build teams that can come up with the answers.
Right. Right.
So
A lot of, yeah. I can't even argue. I mean, why would I? Because I'm a firm believer. Just that, Steve Jobs has a quote. How does it go? It's something like, we don't hire smart people so we can tell them what to do. We hire smart people so they can tell us what to do.
exactly, and that's where the vulnerability comes, right? And you making yourself. This is where the difference between feeling vulnerable versus humility. Being able to tell me, to build a team where people will say, what, this is what we should do, right? And you say, what, let's go ahead and try it and see what we learn from it. That's humility. But this is what we should do, and say, well, hold on a second. Let me customize it so I can make it, my own answer. That's where you start feeling vulnerable, and then that's where your ego now takes first place, and that's the recipe for failure.
There you go.
I can tell you that the most exciting part has been for me to see teams um, move forward without my help. After pairing up with them and building that team, right? Seeing them almost, being autonomous, self-sufficient, and that's what excites me, because then I know that I can say jokingly, my job is done. Off to the next team. That's what really excites me. And numbers and outcomes and outputs and all that will be achieved as long as you build the right team. And to build the right team, you have to have that winning mentality in your head that is not about me, it's about my team. And that starts by saying, what, I don't know, but heck, man, I'm willing to find out. I'm gonna find people to work with, and I'm gonna build that team. It's we try to do that every day, especially here at Brian Health. I can tell you that's why I was very excited to join this wonderful team, because I have the opportunity to say, what, guys, we don't know, and I will work, let's say, with a nursing team. From the many that I get to work every day, we're working, for example, with surgical site infections, during C-sections, and we say, what, we are a team here. It's me and then a team of nursing staff. What, we don't know all the answers, but guess what? Let's incorporate some providers. Let's incorporate some pharmacy. Let's incorporate some whoever it might be, right? For depends, of course, the different topics that we're working on, and build that team that can come up with the answers, and not just drive the team forward just because of the one person or the one idea. It's pretty much like a wheel, right? The wheel in our car, as it rotates, right? Every part of the wheel feels a different part of the road each time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same thing. Every part of the team gets to build on that initial momentum, right? And keep on growing and keep on growing it. If we don't understand that, unfortunately, and that's where lean transformations fail, because they're not built on the mentality that we're going to move forward with the I don't know, but I'm willing to find out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, and not just expressing, oh yeah, I think, based on what my experience in the past, I can turn these around pretty quickly and I can make us some money and basic experience can go up. Well, that's exactly what you're doing right now. You're thinking and you're being arbitrary.
Right. Right. So Panos, I do always like to take a little bit of a break from the, I don't even want to call it the formal part of the podcast because
Absolutely,
it's
absolutely.
pretty informal. I play what I like to call the wicked fun part. So I get some rapid fire questions for you if you're up for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, cool. What do you think about when you're alone in your car?
Oh my gosh. Typically I would say my family, I was like, okay, figure out ways to spend more time with them, even during the day. My beautiful wife and we're expecting. So, how we can make more time with, now that we can, right? That we have the opportunity.
Right. Nice. That's a very wholesome. That's a good answer. I like that one. Let's see. Tell me something about your last job other than money that would have inspired you to stay and keep working there.
I would say the leaders. The last job I would say before I started my own consulting firm, and a few years back in 2014, it was with Brown Printing. So in the publishing world, and I can tell you I had a great individuals working with, and one of them was the senior vice president of manufacturing that actually came back from retirement as. To help the company out, and he used to be the CEO of the company for I believe over 9 years.
Hmm.
So we used to challenge each other every day, right? So we made best friends out of each other, regardless of our age difference, and we used to hang out all the time at work and really challenge each other out. But in reality, what we were doing is we were really expanding each other's threshold of knowledge. So I had a great time with Dan. His name is Dan Mitch, and I had a great time with Dan, and a lot of laughs, and it was really exciting to learn from him as an executive and spending a lot of time shadowing him, because he allowed me the opportunity to see myself beyond just a director level in operations. I was like, my vision is to be an executive, not for the title, for to be able to start building my own teams.
Mm-hmm. Nice. What's one thing nobody knows about you?
Nobody knows about me.
You got to keep it G-rated. This is a family show, Panos.
That's right. Wow. Let's see. I would say, man, there's a lot of things that probably people don't know about me, but I would say, in college, I used to build rockets, right? So my dream has always been to be a pilot. And if you remember the movie, The Iron Eagle.
Oh yeah, of course.
Iron Eagle, right? So I remember videotaping these back in the day. I had it on VHS, and I used to watch it every weekend. I was obsessed. I used to get a magazine in Greece that taught you all about the planes, and you actually can build some model planes. So unfortunately, I wanted, as I was graduating high school, I wanted to go become a pilot. Unfortunately, I would say my parents were a little scared with the idea, and actually they employed a lot of my teachers to change my mind. And that's where I would say, okay, I will chase the next best thing that I'm excited about, which is physics. Now, could have looking back, right, goes back to chase your passion versus chase what you're good at, and then what you can become great at. I would say, I'm not going to say I agree 100% that, with the path, but I would have enjoyed, I think, pilot. So maybe in the near future, I might do it in a more of a personal level rather than just the military. But
there you go.
It's something that I would say only my wife and my parents will know about it. So.
Nice. And it's got to be easier because I refresh my memory. This is Iron Eagles, where the kid, right? His dad's a fighter pilot, and he goes up and he tapes the Walkman to it, right? He plays music.
That's right.
Yeah. Great. Louis Gossett Jr., Chappie blows up. You're bringing back a lot of good childhood memories.
That time, right? Remember that time it was like, with the Walkmans, right?
Right.
I had the cassettes and all that. So you can imagine me going to school with a bicycle, right? And I have my Walkman in my backpack, and you feel like you're flying a plane. Yep.
Right, right. Yeah, that's awesome. I love that movie too. That's funny. Um, what profession other than your own? Well, actually, I guess you just asked that. What? So I'll skip that one. Usually, I was going to ask you what profession other than your own would you like to do, but I'll skip to this one. What profession would you not like to do?
Um, I will okay. I will avoid saying politician right now, just because the
Yeah.
circumstances that we live in. Um, you know, for me, it doesn't matter so much the profession. Almost, I don't know if it's the way I was born, or I would say molded my thinking. Is I'm intentionally curious. So regardless of what you threw at me, I would say that I will try to find what I enjoy about it. So to give you some context with that, my father, was in construction, so he used to operate heavy equipment, and I remember being little, and I will go to his job site after school, and man, I would just observe. And it was a tough job. You're in a piece of equipment sitting on that operator's seat for God knows 10, 12 hours a day. And I remember around 10 years old, I will hop in on the machine, not no training whatsoever, right? And I will operate it myself based on what I had seen. I had kind of decoded, right, all his hand moves and all that. So with that said, my grandpa was a fisherman.
Hmm.
We used to wake up 5 o'clock in the morning on Saturdays, and go catch the net, which it was thrown the night before, almost midnight. So I enjoyed the way I was raised. We were a very poor family. Nothing, no technology in the house or anything of some sort back in the 90s. So I was curious. I had not almost there was no limits to what I could do, or path. I would say what path I could take. So I was just curious. So I don't think there will be a profession that would say I dislike, because I would most likely will tell you that I will try to find what am I enjoy about it, and build on that.
Hmm. Well, it's a
You know,
very healthy outlook about it,
yeah, I
by the
mean, I
way.
mean, I've worked as a waiter, as a busboy during my college years, right? I've cleaned my fair share of toilets. Let's put it that way, to put myself through college.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter to me, the job itself. It's not. It's almost, it's the joy that comes with it. If you
Mhm.
click yourself, if you find that connecting point that you can be joyful about what you do, then you stop looking at it as a job.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I used to, not for nothing, I was a dishwasher for 4.25 an hour. Now, granted, it was a summer job when I was in high school,
Doesn't
but
matter.
still, it was some, honestly, me and my buddy Chris, it was some of the best times of that period of my life, right? We had a blast. It was
Oh,
hot and steamy, and we'd get chemicals on our hands that would eat the skin off. I mean, it was a miserable job, and we get paid practically nothing, but we had a blast doing it.
that's right. I mean, I was working in restaurants during the summertime when I was in college, and I will tell you is it was, and I remember this very vividly. November time, and it's Friday morning. Friday night. I'm sorry, and I wake up in the middle of the night, right? Because I had a nightmare that I had forgotten somebody's rotisserie chicken,
Yeah.
and they were waiting for me in the table. So, and I was like, when I realized where I was in my dorm room, and I was like, oh my gosh, I hate being a waiter. But in reality, I had a lot of fun, and I met a lot of people, and I found the joy in that part of the profession, I would say.
Nice. Nice. Well, Panos, we're just about out of time. So I just wanted to throw it out to you and say, is there anything that, you kind of wanted to chat a little bit about that I didn't, we hadn't already? I mean, we covered a lot of ground. It feels like we just started talking 5 minutes ago.
I would say, one thing that I would like to hear your opinion about is where have you seen lately, especially how, with the pandemic, again, the pandemic cannot be just an excuse, but with where do you see the gap? We're talking about lean, helping organizations, being more innovative, right? Taking the next step, and not just, cutting cost, but really being innovative.
Mhm.
Where have you seen in your mind so far, in your experience, that the pandemic might propel that, I would say, notion forward,
Mm.
or hinder it?
Oof, that's a good one. I guess I would say that I think the pandemic has forced us as an industry forward faster than maybe we would have before. I mean, not for nothing, but this podcast was born out of the COVID time when I wasn't doing a heck of a lot. The setup that you see here was all purchased during that time, partly for the podcast, but mostly because we had clients who said, we don't want to stop training. We got a triple P loan, so we're still going to be paying people. Production's way down because our customers are canceling orders. So we just don't want to lay people off. So let's take this opportunity and let's get some people trained. But we can't have you come in. So can you do it virtually? Well, the obvious answer is yes. So we had to quickly figure out, how to do that. And that's what kind of this all started with. So I think there's some, not to say that COVID is a good thing, because it hasn't been. I do think that there have been some good things that have come out of it.
Sure.
As far as gaps, I think it has, at least in our experience, my experience, I think it's opened up folks' eyes a little bit that previously thought lean was a cost cutting exercise or a program, and that kind of thing. Because, and we chat, obviously we challenge that. But that's been around for a long, long time, right? In the last 30 some odd years since Krafsick wrote that article at MIT. Lean kind of gets a bum rap. I think people are starting to understand now, seeing how the pandemic has affected their businesses, because it's been rough for a lot of our clients. It's up around here, we're known as Aerospace Alley. So we have a lot of tier 1 and tier 2 aerospace suppliers. So, and on the military side, they didn't really slow down very much. But there's all this external forces affecting their business. So, we've had clients who, I'm thinking of this one place, they have roughly 30 employees. 9 of them, including the 2 owners who are brother and sister, got COVID. And it paralyzed them, because there's only certain people who know how to do certain things. And when they're not around, that just stops, so it brings up the case for, cross training. And then you start to dig into that whole process and you find a lot of stuff that you don't even have to do anymore. It doesn't add value to anybody. They always just did it because they just did it, even though they were very busy. And, all of the pieces of the layers of the onion that come out when you start peeling these things back. So at least that's what we've gotten. I've seen that people are starting to come around to say, okay, I understand cost cutting would have been great, but I can see all the other stuff that you guys have been telling us, from removal of non-value added processes, and get those things out of the way so we can adapt faster to these types of things. Now, hopefully we'll never have another global pandemic in the near future, but now we know that it can happen and stuff like it can happen. So I feel like people are starting to understand that lean is more about, agility, being able, nimbleness, and being able to change and adapt faster, which is really, again, what it's all about. And to what we've been talking about for the last hour is the employee engagement part. What experience do they have? Do they feel empowered? Because when they do, they'll be able to help the business adapt and overcome much, much faster. And that's kind of, to me, that's where it's all about. So I'm seeing that, it's kind of coming around a little bit, and people, it's kind of like that V8 moment where people are like, now I can see it. Before they had a backlog of whatever, they had plenty of work to do. They were looking for people because they were just so busy. And then, overnight that goes away. And it's like, okay, now what are you going to do?
Exactly. I mean, in one thing that pandemic or no pandemic, and yeah, of course, we don't want any such things to happen again. Will they happen again? Absolutely, and they have happened. And we have said the same thing with the first pandemic back, with the Spanish flu, right?
Right.
Hopefully, that doesn't happen again, and here we are.
Right.
And actually, it has happened. I mean, not necessarily in the pandemic mode, but in the last 10 years. But what I will tell you, obstacles will be inevitable forward. Misery is optional, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when we goes back to what I was telling you before, that if we choose to be miserable, it's almost like saying, what, I don't know, and you get stuck there. But it's really, when you say I don't know, but I'm willing to find out and overcome and innovate myself, that you break through and open. You make doors where you see walls at the beginning, right? Just like you say, you started the podcast, and a lot of other folks did the same thing too. And maybe you hadn't seen yourself making a podcast, a few years back, and here you are, right? So definitely allows for a different type of thinking moving forward, regardless what the issue might be. Um, Pandemic, civil unrest, wars, whatever. People came out in different state. Not everyone, but those that were willing to really adapt and say, what can be done? What if? What if? That is something that we all need to be comfortable asking that question.
Nice. Well, I think we should leave it right there and leave people thinking. So that'll be how we close it out. Just say, what if?
That's right. What if?
Nice. Panos, man, it was so good to see you. I
Absolutely.
can't wait till we get to see each other again in real life.
Oh, absolutely. Now we appreciate each other, actually paying attention to each other's face, right? Because now with the masks,
Yeah.
right, we're not that ability. So I'm glad that at least virtually we're able to do that. So
Yeah. Well, thanks again for coming on with us. I mean, mind blowing. This is going to be rolling around on my head now for
good.
days,
Same here.
if not longer. So thank you for that, by the way.
I appreciate you for inviting me over and giving me this opportunity, to have that nice discussion with you.
Cool. All right, my man. I'll let you go.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Panos.
Have a good Saturday.
All right, you too. Take it easy.
Bye.
Hey, everybody, it's Paul. Before I let you go, I just wanted to say thanks again for listening. You've really made doing this podcast a very rewarding experience for me. I get a lot of messages from listeners, and everyone has something nice to say, which I very much appreciate. Of course, I'm always open to feedback on ways we can make it better. I mean, that's Kaizen, after all. And by no stretch do I claim to have got this all figured out. So if there's things that I could do better, please, by all means, feel free to reach out and let me know. And likewise, if there's somebody that you think would be a great guest, also let me know. There's a chance I don't know who those folks are. So somebody that you can help put us in touch with, somebody you want to learn more about, certainly let me know and I'll reach out to those folks. But I hope you find the podcast fun and entertaining, educational, and maybe even a little inspirational, I hope. That's really what I'm going after with this whole thing. So thanks again. And one small ask, if you don't mind, if you listen, whatever your preferred platform is, if you could just, subscribe, give us 5 stars on Apple or whatever, again, whatever platform you listen to, it helps. The algorithms like it. So if you could do that for me, I would greatly appreciate it. And we'll talk to you real soon. Thanks, everybody.